everybody, Terrence Pop here with another episode. Live from the Lair. Alright, so I promised you guys some other stories in regards to some process serving. I do have more Army stories. I'm going to get to those. These years when I was doing the repo school process serving, I was in the Army Reserve and National Guard. So, do I have a lot of funny stories from that time? Yeah, but it wasn't a day-by-day thing. I mean, it is what it is. But, I worked as a process server when I was in college in repo man. The process server gig was more steady work. As a repo dude, I worked maybe 1 or 2 days a week, sometimes even less than that, but made good money doing it. But, and don't plan on getting any sleep because, it was an all-night kind of thing. I did the process serving thing in the evenings and the nights because, I worked out. I went to college all day, worked out in the evenings, and then, did the process serving thing. Typically in the process server kit I carried, I had a briefcase. It was actually a plastic briefcase, about 8 inches wide. And I had all of the maps of Detroit and all the surrounding suburbs. And I had a couple of other books that also had redundant maps. A lot of them were more detailed than the ones you buy at the shops. Because this is like in the 90s, there was no, no Google Earth or any of that bullshit. You had to figure it out on your own. I had a Polaroid camera, a 35 millimeter camera with a telephoto lens, duct tape, notes, and a tape recorder. Because a lot of times crazy shit went on, especially when lawsuits are involved or divorces. It just gets ugly. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. I probably served hundreds of divorces, and most of the time, there's always some kind of emotional roller coaster when they finally get the paperwork, because it's not really real to them, I guess, until they get the paperwork. The ones I really like serving are the ones where I would just call the attorney for the individual being served and say, hey, do you want me to serve the person, or do you want to take it in lieu of me? And a lot of times the attorney's like, yeah, I represent them, you can just give me the papers. That was the best way, because contrary to popular belief, serving divorces was not fun for me at all. I read so many of the divorce fucking paperwork, and I served so many divorces. I don't even know why the fuck I even got married. I should have learned my goddamn lessons back then. And, and they would tell me not to read the papers, but, fuck it, I'd have these papers on me for sometimes between 1 and 5 days. At night, you're having a couple beers, you want some good, reading, you read through some other shit. It was it was like reading a comedy of errors. I mean, I couldn't even make some of the shit up that was in these papers. It was hilarious. And I can't believe some of these attorneys actually wrote some of the stuff up in there. But a couple of divorces that kind of struck home to me was, I remember because I'd always call first, and I would call the people and say, hey, I'm working for the court. I have, a divorce here for you. I'd like to give it to you. When can I do this? And I would say, over 50% of the time, they would say, I'll be home at 6:30. Just come by and give it to me. And it almost never failed. They'd all be calm and everything until I gave them the papers, and then they would just get emotionally upset. And some of them would yell shit at me. Like, I'm personally working for their soon-to-be ex whatever. And I had nothing to do with it. I'm just a guy giving you fucking papers. And a lot of the services I did, too, for the company, actually, I represented 2 different companies. But usually they gave me the papers that had been tried at least once or twice before, and, there were negative contacts. Or there was going to be some kind of shenanigans going on, threat of violence and stuff like that. Because most of the people that worked at the companies I represented, the first one had 8 employees. There was only me and another dude that were males, the rest were females. And the other company was all females, so I always got the dangerous shit. I mean, I never had anybody pull guns on me or anything, I had cops pull guns on me before, but that was different. It was in the process of, serving papers. But I remember this one. The guy worked in a packing plant. I don't know, it's recycle cardboard kind of thing. And I called him at like 9 in the morning. No, it was like 8:15 in the morning. I said, "Hey, I'm working for the court. I got the divorce paperwork for you. I mean, you want me to, come give it to you, or do I have to track you down? Because this is going to happen." So he says, "Yeah, just come by, drop it off at my work." So I'm like, "Okay." So it's like 3. He said he took his break at like 3:30 or something in the afternoon. So I drive my ass all the way up to Northville, go in there like 3:15. I'm in the waiting in the lobby, and they let me back there, and because they're like, "Well, we'll give it to him." I'm like, "It doesn't work like that. I work for the court. I have to hand him the paperwork." So I go back there and I hand it to him, and then he gets like all flustered and upset. So I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like walking out. I'm leaving. It's all good, and he's like 4 or 5 paces behind me. And I'm about to walk out the side door that leads to the parking lot where my car is. And I remember I stop at the door and I turn around and I look at the guy and I say, "Listen, if you think I'm doing this job because I'm some kind of pussy, then you just go ahead and follow me out of this fucking door." Needless to say, he didn't. There was like 4 or 5 guys standing there going, "Ooh, oh," I just, whatever. I don't want to have a fist fight. I don't want to fuck anybody up, but I was in the best shape of my life, and I was in the gym pretty much 2 to 4 hours a day, in the kickboxing world. I would have fucked that dude up because he was a butterball. All right, the Polaroid camera. Now, usually I would do the Polaroid camera thing for problem, services, and a lot of the people that gave me the hardest time were attorneys and doctors. And I'd have the duct tape, and I would identify the individual's car, and I would park nearby, and then I would take the papers and tape them to the windshield of the car with a big duct tape X, so they can't like drive away with it on there. And I would just camp it out for a while. Usually people work 9 to 5. I'd put the paperwork on the car, 4:15, 4-ish, and I would hang out. And the guy would walk out and like literally be grabbing the paperwork and ripping it off the windshield, and I would take a Polaroid of him holding the paperwork. There's no fucking way he could, that particular doctor could back out of that. I totally fucking busted him. And I would take the Polaroids and write up the report and send it up to the people who were paying the bills, and they actually loved it. There's no way. I think I had 2 or 3 guys try to back out of being served, and the judge just looks at the Polaroid and says, "Get the fuck out of here. There's no fucking way. Fuck that guy." Let's see. I served a guy in the freeway. We got into a little bit of a car chase. He ran away, got in his car, and took off. I get in my car. Now, I'm not like pursuing him at like crazy, stupid speed, because I don't want, if there's an accident, I'm partially liable. So I'm following at a comfortable distance. And I remember back in the day, they were doing the 696 thing, and there was a huge, nut roll going on. I had it choked down the one lane. And I'm literally like 4 cars behind this guy, and we're like in basically stop and go traffic. So, put the car in park, run up to his car, put it under the windshield, take a picture, run back to my car, and, he swore at me, said some fucked up shit. I don't care. I'm not getting paid for road rage. I didn't participate. I went about my business. And he, they tried to, I think on that one, they tried to refuse service on the fact that it was unsafe on the freeway. Well, the judge is like, "Well, how fast are you going?" "Oh, it was at a dead stop, so you weren't going at it. There was no forward progression." "Fuck you, you're served." Let's see. I got another guy. This individual I'd go to his house, and I'd been there like twice before, and I knew he was home. But he would shut off all the lights downstairs, and then he would go hang out on the 2nd floor. And then it just not acknowledge the doorbell. I climb up on, there had a lattice that went onto like a little small roof, and I could see the light on upstairs. Literally, I climb up the lattice, I get there, and I stick the papers on the window and duct tape them on there, and knock on there. Guy turns around, pull out the 35 millimeter, take some pictures. I'm like, hey, you're served, bro. So he picks up the phone. He's like, I'm calling the cops. I don't care. My job's already done. I know the cops they're a minimum of 4 to 6 minutes away, tops. I'll be gone by then. Climb down, get in my car, gone. You know, and let's see, I got, on that particular one, I got $15 per attempt, and then I got 35 for the actual service, so that was a pretty good one. And this is in like early 1990 dollars, so it's not bad, you know. Okay, another one, what was my speciality was doctors. Okay, my mother worked back then as a respiratory therapist. So, you know, she had the pocket protector and the stethoscope, you know, and the surgical mask things laying around the house. So I went up to, you know, hospital supply, bought a set of scrubs, clipboard, because these doctors would hide in the hospital, and usually the hospitals have 2 to 3, maybe even more layers of security. But if you're dressed in scrubs and you have the stethoscope carrying a clipboard, and all of the services I did to doctors, not one fucking time did I get turned away. You know, I remember I served a radiologist, literally made it through, you know, into the hospital through the primary security, made it onto the floor security, made it all the way back into where he was reading, you know, x-rays, sitting down, and I served him right over his left shoulder. I'm like, here, bud, here you go. You know, he got all upset, and they made a big stink about me wearing disguises and stuff. But listen, if you're going to hide behind 2 or 3 layers of security, sooner or later, you know, you got to get served. You can't hide forever. All right. And then I had a couple doctors that would do that. They would try to hide behind the security in their hospital. And if they were successful, they would live in a gated community, because these doctors, they make stupid money. And you can't drive into a gated community. But, you know, oh my God, it's a goddamn infantry, airborne ranger, Green Beret, you know, long-range reconnaissance soldier. You know, I do a foot infill, then they can't stop me. And I probably served half a dozen dudes, you know, 10 o'clock to 2 in the morning at their house, you know, pounded on the door, and then security rolls up, and then they run out like, hey, he's trespassing, he's not supposed to be here. Hey, you're served. Take the picture, security would throw a fit. I pull up my papers, and I work for the fucking court. Sorry for the late hour, but this schlep rock here is being an asshole and trying to hide from being served. So we can escalate this up the chain, and you can call the county sheriff. They'll come here and tell you to pound sand. I'm well within my rights. Fuck off. Okay, that was a good one. Let's see. Oh, the neurosurgeon. Now, I was reading this guy's paperwork. He was a neurosurgeon. They were claiming that he did all this crazy ass shit, which resulted in this older lady dying on the table. She was 72. There was a lot of extenuating circumstances, and her family was suing this guy. Now, I read the papers. I didn't see, you know, anything that made this guy a bad guy. He just drew the short straw and had a patient die on the table. But he was so combative. Oh my God! I thought I was going to have to fight this guy. And I got him at the grocery store. Actually, I went to his house, gated community. I was going to go in on foot. You know, I saw him pull out, and then, you know, I just followed him right to a Kroger, got out, and like right there in the parking lot, I served him. And like literally, he wanted to fight me. He was, you know, his mid-30s, pretty good shape, I guess. But he's a goddamn neurosurgeon, you know. You don't want to fuck your hands up punching another dude in the head, especially a dude who gets punched in the head on a regular fucking basis and did it for fucking money. So, you know, needless to say, it didn't come to that. I just said, yeah, look, man, right now you're angry. In an hour or two, you're going to calm down, and this isn't going to mean anything. A few days from now, you're not going to remember what I look like, okay? Get on with your life. Move on. Oh my God, I had a great time doing this. All right, now, I want to put a disclaimer out there. If you live in Michigan, I highly suggest that you don't do any business in Wayne County in Michigan. You don't do any business within the confines of the city of Detroit, because that place is so goddamn corrupt and crooked. It is unfucking believable. All right. I spent a lot of time going to Wayne County to, get stuff put into the system, or have to get stuff from judges, or get a signature from a judge. And hundreds of times I went to Wayne County, and I literally could get zero service except between 10:30 in the morning and 11:30 in the morning, and then they went on lunch, and then they're on lunch till fucking 1:30 in the fucking afternoon, and then they work to about 2:45. So these sons of bitches that work there at Wayne County are probably getting paid for a solid 8, maybe a 9-hour day, and they're doing 3 hours worth of fucking work. I mean, it was routine. And then, if you're parked on the fucking street inside the city, especially anywhere near the downtown area, after 3 o'clock, you get a fucking parking ticket. Now, you would figure if you want people to come to Detroit to spend money, you would provide them better places to park and not bust their fucking nuts, for being parked on the street after 3 o'clock. Wouldn't you? There's a reason why, Detroit went bankrupt and it's all fucked up. The place is run by Democrats, and it is incredibly corrupt. I mean, after World War II, the Michigan area was considered the arsenal of democracy. They built almost 80% of all the aircraft, tanks, and vehicles for World War II. And that huge economy was handed over to the Democrats, and today it looks like goddamn Nagasaki. So that's just my take on Detroit. I've always lived around Detroit on and off through my entire life. I have no love for the city. I really don't. And and it's a shame for me to say that, but Detroit did it to itself. All right, gentlemen, coming up on 18 minutes here, and I guess we'll call it an evening. Take it easy.